Hello there. I figured I was gonna do this podcast to pop the 5 hour to get my energy going for this because I have a lot to say. This one's gonna be called the Jewish mic drop. The reason I'm doing this is because of all this stuff that's happening in the news and in the media. It's pretty interesting. So I'm going to give you my perspective, my opinion, and my actual life experience as being a Russian Jew. So here we go. And if you get offended by it, too fucking bad. Maybe it'll open up your eyes to some things that most people are not aware of. Because here's the reality of it, right? So the messed up thing is for minority people, they wear their minority on their skin. So people who are racist, people who are prejudiced, they can judge somebody by what they look like. So there could be prejudice towards them, whether they're open about it or silently, but they see somebody of a different color, a different look, and they judge them accordingly. And obviously, those things are horrendous. Now, the difference with Jewish people, for most part, don't have a certain look. Well, they do. The whole stereotype of the Jew nose, right? The Jew nose, the big Jew nose is the stereotype. I'm Jewish. I have blonde hair. I have green eyes, and I have a small nose. So I don't fit the stereotypical Jewish look, right? So here's the thing. The interesting part is that Jews are constantly getting made fun of. And the difference with Jews is that we just kind of, whatever, just kind of let it fall off your shoulder because it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, unless somebody is really hurting you physically, financially, or your family, who gives a fuck what they think? I'd rather have somebody be open about how they feel about, a different race, a different religion, whatever it may be, so you know where they stand rather than be hidden and doing things behind your back that are dangerous. For instance, like people right now are freaking out about Twitter. It's fucking Twitter. I listened to Rob Black's show and he made a really good point. Twitter is not drinking water. This is exactly what he said. And I completely agree with him on it. It's not fucking drinking water. Get over yourself. There's only 2% of people in the world are on Twitter. And a tiny percent of that are woke people who have never experienced anything outside their fucking bedroom. So let's be realistic about this now. The fact that like the silent majority, it gets washed out by the tiny people that can't handle real life situations. So going back to the whole thing of me not looking Jewish, I'm constantly hearing Jew jokes and things like that. And I don't really mind. I really don't care because I'd rather have people like my friends and we joke with each other. Like Sasha's a good friend of mine. He's German. I'm Jewish. So we make Russian Jew, German jokes all the time. And people are like, whoa. And we're like, we're friends. We don't mean any harm by it. I know where he stands and he knows where I stand. And none of those jokes come with a serious mind at heart. So, but then you hear things like this quite a bit, and you just let it fall off your shoulders because what's the point? What, are you going to argue with somebody, or are you going to go, oh, it hurt my feelings? Because that's what people want. They want that attention. If they can't get any attention from you, they want at least negative attention. It's something. So I'm constantly hearing anti-Semitic things being said. For instance, God forbid you say black people can't swim. It's fucked up and it's racist. But it's okay to say you're Jewing me down, right? So what's the fucking difference? Neither should hurt that other person's feelings. Fuck it, who cares if they're saying that? Who gives a shit? You're Jewing me down? I bet you every motherfucker that's listening to this wants to get a better price on anything they buy. They're not Jewish. So why the fuck is me Jewing me down, you Jewing me down is an okay term? It shouldn't be. But it is. And people just say it like it just kind of flies out of their mouth because they don't think anything of it, because they don't see that there are people that can get offended by it. Should they? I don't really care. Like this whole thing with Kanye and now Kyrie Irving, they're misinformed and they're stupid. Yeah, they have a big platform, so them saying certain things can affect the masses and the way the masses think. So I get that. But then the day, let them speak their mind, because you know what? The market will dictate what the market thinks, good or bad. It is what it is. Sadly, right now with the woke crowd, the market has shifted to look where the country's at now, because we're looking at things that are so insignificant in the bigger scheme of things, and we're forgetting about everything else. Anything that's on social media that's popular, everybody jumps on. But God forbid you step outside your social media circle and look at the real world and then see what's going on. Step outside your door. LA is a third world country right now. God forbid this fucking government sends a penny to help these people. But we're sending billions of dollars in every fucking country, not every country, one particular country, because there's things there that need to be hidden. And and take it for what it is, conspiracy or not, it's not. The fact is that $40 billion sent over fucking seas while people are dying on the streets here. And now, what's happening now? It's wintertime. 40,000 homeless people in LA. Supposedly 50,000 homeless veterans in this country. Wintertime. What's going to happen to these people? These are people who are citizens. These are people, someone's kids, someone's parents, someone loved ones. And yet it's just kind of washed off to the side, right? Because you know what? Helping the homeless is not cool. It's not social media worthy. But for social media, like all these people that put up like the little Ukrainian flag in their avatar, do your fucking research about everything that's going on there and everything that's going on in this country. How about you put up a sign that says feed the homeless as your avatar, which is right here in our own house, in our own kitchen. Well, not for the homeless people. They don't have a kitchen. So it gets frustrating to see this bullshit over and over again, and people jumping on all these. Who cares? Kanye wants to say what? Let him say it. Look what's happening to him. Kyrie Irving. Who cares? He's an idiot. He's an uneducated idiot who thinks he's smarter than everybody. This is the man that thinks the earth is flat. This is the man that wouldn't get vaccinated, so he cost this team a whole season because he's got all these conspiracy theories. Now he's got this one. Okay, good for you. I actually know people that were in the Holocaust, had numbers tattooed on their hands, on their arms. It was one of my best friends growing up. It was his dad. And he told us horror stories. So now, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories, my experiences of being Jewish and being a Russian Jew growing up in what now is Ukraine. And I've told this story before. The interesting thing is, before this Russian invasion of Ukraine, I did a podcast called All Roads Lead Here. And it's a podcast about immigrants. And I did a podcast with somebody else, website broker, I think it was something like that, and similar topics came up. Me being a Russian Jew, coming to this country, coming here during the Cold War, coming from the region now is Ukraine. So they wanted to hear my stories, my journey. Mind you, I was 8 years old, 8.5 when we left Mother Russia for America, for the land of the free, home of the brave. And this is why I fight so hard with people who shit on this country, because I tell them all the time, go talk to an immigrant from any land, any religion, any color that fought to come here, risked life and limb to come here, what they think of this country and this flag. Yeah, this country is not perfect. Far from. Better than most. Better, 1,000% better than the countries they fucking left. That's why they came here. Yet people in this country think this country is 1,000% piece of shit. Well, that's fucking cool. Then go visit some other country and come back here and tell me what you think now. Yes, this country needs fixing. Sure it does. Every country needs fixing. You think every country's perfect? Canadians complain about their taxes. Canada's perfect. I went to Canada, couldn't even afford to go to fucking Walmart to buy shit because everything's expensive there. So so for somebody who's like, so I hate America, moves to Canada, like, I hate the prices. I mean, seriously, the fact that there's so much in this country. Oh, perfect example, Brittany Griner. Shit on this, wouldn't walk out onto the court until national anthem was done being played. Told her teammates to do the same thing. Then goes to Russia. Welcome to fucking the rest of the world. You go to Russia and you get fucking detained and you get thrown in prison. Oh, it's not like the United States where you can have attorneys, you can have protests, you can have all kinds of stuff to get this person out of jail. No, not in Russia, not in most of the world. Laws are laws, and those laws are skewed one way or the other, depends on how the government wants to treat you. That's the reality. Same here, for most part. It's getting a lot better, but it's not like Russia. It's not like Ukraine. It's not like majority of the countries, especially countries that strict. Middle East, China, North Korea, Russia, good luck. If you're an American, you go to those countries, you're a moron if you decide to break the law. Remember this Singapore situation with that kid who got 10 canes for spray painting something? 10 canes. And every time he passed out, they waited for him to wake up from the pain. They waited for him to wake up so they could smack him again. That's the reality of the rest of the world. That people in this country who are so sheltered don't get, don't understand. And now they're, Brittany Griner. Fuck her. You know why fuck her? Because there's 40,000 people in this country who are in prison for marijuana crimes. Not one NBA player is fighting for them. NBA is not fighting for them. Why? Because they can't dribble a basketball? That's bullshit. And they're in this country under our laws, not in another country that's in war and hates us right now and is going to make an example of her. It's fucked up what's happening to her. But then the day, she put herself in that situation. Nobody else did. Let's not forget that. She decided to travel there. She decided to have that in the bag. She admitted it was in her bag. So then what? I don't understand why people are so bent. Oh, Brittany Griner, over it. It's done. It's sad. It sucks. She's a human being who doesn't deserve that at all. But again, sometimes you jump in the pit with crocodiles, you might get your arm ripped off. That's the reality. Do we feel bad for them? Sure we do. But then we're like, kind of jumped in the pit of alligators. That's kind of what would happen. You know, you're in Russia. You have a little bit of weed on you. Those things can happen. There's also an American businessman that's been in Russia on the same crimes. Not one person in this country gives a shit about him or brings him up because he's not a basketball player. And he didn't even shit on this country like she did. So I'm really confused about how the social media affects people's minds. And now with the Twitter thing, oh, Twitter's going to be... Blah, blah, blah. I had a friend post on Facebook, the N-word on Twitter went up by 100% or something. And my reply was like, well, did they start playing more hip-hop on there? Like, at some point, fucking own your own shit. Like, I'm serious. It's like, it's crazy to me. Own your own shit. I'd rather have some racist motherfucker throw the N-word around on Twitter so I know who he is, and I'd be like, oh, if you have a business, fuck you and your business. I'm not going to work there. I'm not going to shop there. If anything, maybe people protest your fucking shop because you're so comfortable throwing the N-word around. It's disgusting. But at the end of the day, we should have, because somebody commented, they're like, wow, why would you say that? That's crazy. And my response was simple. I'd rather know who the racists are in the room because they're sharing their thoughts than them being hiding their feelings, smiling to your face, and behind your back doing conniving shit to ruin your life, ruin the situation, fuck up this country. How do you think Trump won? All these people that had this pent-up aggression and anger because of how everything's been thrown in their face, because they're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to say right or wrong what their opinions are. Because God forbid they say something and that racist word "la" is like this trigger thing that white woke people with guilt complex like to throw around at other white people. White people throw it at white people. Black people are just like, fucking, man, I'm trying to survive. Hispanic people, trying to survive. Asian people, I'm trying to go to college. Literally, that's fucking the reality of it. But people with like some white guilt throw that shit around. So those people that just, I'm just going to keep quiet. And what they did, they voted for fucking Trump. And Trump fucking became our president. Strictly because of that bullshit. That's why. Nobody thought he was going to win. In the polls, he was losing. Oh, where are all these votes coming from? From people that were silent. Because they've been silenced because, God forbid, you have freedom of speech in this country. Because then all of a sudden you're labeled all kinds of different things. It's crazy. It's crazy. This country needs to get back to freedom of speech so we could have a healthy debate. But it's not like that. So I went on the tangent because this 5 hours really kicking in. But it's just frustrating to see how social media affects what we think. I'll give you one quick example before I tell you my Jewish stories. So all of you are aware of what Jews go through to this day. You know, it's funny because all the stuff that's coming out now, talking to Misha, and Misha's all like, I never realized how much hate there is towards Jews, or at least anti-Semitism out there. I go, why would you? You're not Jewish. How would you know? You wouldn't know. Because racism towards black people or people of a different color is right there. A person doesn't like him because he's a different color, or systemic racism that you see all the time. That's really destroyed communities of people. For Jewish people, we look similar, unless you're like a Hasidic Jew and you're walking around with all that shit on. Somebody would know. So you don't pay attention to those things. And I told her, I go, yeah, I hear it all the time, but I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I really don't give a shit. I'm not sensitive like that because, I grew up in a Russian household watching my parents struggle to come to this country. It hardened me that I don't get offended by shit because I traveled and I saw the world and I saw real hardships. Not hardships, oh my God, my Twitter, oh my God, my social media account got deleted. That's first world problems, motherfucker. First world problem. So she's like, I'm shocked. I'm all like, I'm not. I hear it all the time. It just doesn't bother me. So I don't go around going, oh, woe is me. I'm Jewish and I feel offended. I don't give a fuck. Most Jews don't give a fuck. They're just like, it is what it is. Sometimes it gets too much. So you get like the Anti-Defamation League coming out and be like, whoa, no, fuck you. No. You can't be saying that. Look what happened to Kyrie Irving. He tried to give him $500,000 as like basically hush money. And the ADL said, we are not hookers for money, no matter what anti-Semites think. Fuck you, fuck your money. Because and they even said, like, you are not worth meeting with. Because he doesn't want to meet with them. He doesn't want he doesn't want to apologize. He just wants to throw money at it. And that's it. He didn't even, his people met with them. He didn't even meet with the ADL. So it is what it is. Who cares? Now, I'll tell you an interesting story about like the social media, how social media affects us, right? And why I think it's awesome that Elon Musk took over Twitter, because all these people who are just so about like, it's my way or the highway. Well, now it's reversed. Now what are you going to do? Now all of a sudden it becomes an issue, right? Before it wasn't an issue. You guys remember when the Republican politician was playing baseball and got shot on the baseball diamond? How did Democrats react to that? Ha ha! He's an idiot. He's a conservative. Fuck him. That's funny. What happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband? All of a sudden, Republicans are like, ha ha, well, whatever. You have these conspiracy theories. It's his boyfriend's, whatever, right? And Democrats are like, oh my God, you guys are evil to think like that and say these things. Really? How when the shoe flips on these politicians, how all of a sudden they react? And what happens with that is, this is how they lead the masses of sheep. People just suck up what they say. I go in two different households. One watches MSNBC, one watches Fox News. And I watch both of them, and I'm just like, you guys are like mouth breathers with drool coming down your mouth because you're sitting there slurping up the bullshit from MSNBC and bullshit from Fox News. That's what I see. And they both have completely different versions of reality. So let me tell you this quick story. So remember years ago, before now Ukrainians are the new refugees, right? Years ago, I'm sure many of you remember this, the Syrian refugee problem, which was a huge problem. And remember what happened when Germany took refugees in, the rapes, all these horrible things that happened. You need to do vetting when you bring people in. This is why when we came to United States from Russia, we were on the list for over a year and a half because we're being vetted before we were allowed in the country. That's the reality of it. If you're going to let people come and live in your country, they should be vetted, period. That happens in every country. For some reason, it's not allowed to happen here. It did with us. So we had to wait a year and a half before being vetted in. I get refugee situations different. It's an emergency. You need to save people. You need to save people from the horrors of what they're going through. Let's be realistic. What, 60, 70% of the world is going through horrors every day? How do we pick and choose which horror is more important than the next, right? What had happened in Afghanistan? We're like, we're taking all our planes. We're getting out of here. People are clinging to planes. They'd rather risk being dropped from thousands of feet off a plane than stay in Afghanistan because our government decided, like, we're fucking out of here, even though those are the people that were trying to help us. So, the Syrian situation, right? I was dating this girl, Canadian girl, years ago. Very nice, very entitled, very educated, but very sheltered. Both parents were doctors, professors, writers. She had a business degree. And one day I get a text from her and she says, I'm going to raise $25,000 to bring a refugee family here to Canada. And my response was, LOL. That was it. She calls me that night. She goes, you really hurt my feelings. I go, about what? And she goes, well, your response was LOL when I said I want to raise $25,000 to bring a Syrian family here to Canada. And I go, what did you want me to respond with? Did you want me to congratulate you for a good deed done for the day? I go, I'm confused. I go, because yes, it's a great gesture, but you've told me there's about 300 homeless people outside your apartment building and living in the park. Yet, without helping them, you choose to save or raise $25,000 to bring a family from another country to contribute to possibly more homelessness in your country. Are you bringing over educated people? You're not. You're bringing a family over, which deserves that break. But they're uneducated. They don't know the language. They might be educated, but they don't know the language. They probably don't have the skills to jump right into work. If they do, it's probably not going to be anything big because of the language barrier. Yet, 300 people are homeless outside your window. At what point, again, I said to her, I go, what point should you help yours first before you help others? She goes, whoa, what do you mean by that? I go, don't get that twisted bullshit of fucking I'm woke and better than you bullshit. I go, I don't mean it like that. And don't fucking try to turn that around like that. What I mean by that is you have homeless people outside you that deserve that help. I go, that $25,000, I bet you if you gave $1,000 to 25 people, majority of them probably would change their life around. They could get new clothes, possibly a place to stay, possibly a job, something to change their life around. Get fed. And I go, why a Syrian family? She goes, what do you mean? I go, why not an African family, an Iraqi family, Iranian family? There's turmoil all over the world. All over the world. Somalia, the horrors of what's going on in those countries. Why a Syrian family? Well, because everything's... I go, no, the same thing's going on everywhere else, it's just not in the news. I go, so you're basing your decision of helping someone out by what the news feeds you and social media feeds you, right? I go, that's all you know. And depending on what station you're watching, if it's MSC, CNN, Fox News, all fake news, you're going to go by what they tell you to make your life decisions on, right? And other people's lives decision on. I go, my opinion is you should help the people outside your window first. I'm all about you raising money. I would fucking help you raise that money. $25,000? Fuck yeah. Let's change some lives. I agree 100%. Let's change lives of people right here, right now, so we could help people out there do their thing. It sucks. It's horrible that there are situations like that that are out there. But the whole world's like that. The world is ugly. And in some ways, I don't know how it's going to get fixed. But are we Team America? Are we individually Team America? We're not. And that was the beautiful part about that movie, Team America. It's just the idiocy of what Team America is and stands for, right? Let's go into a land, destroy everything, but we saved you, and then leave it in shambles. Go down the line what we did in Iraq, what we did in Afghanistan. Shambles. ISIS. Why was ISIS around? Because of what our politicians did. Literally destroyed, put these countries in shambles, and ISIS raised up. And now these countries, the youth hate us because of what our politicians did. Go down the fucking line. Clinton, Obama, Bush's, Trump. Well, no, actually, Trump tried to stop the wars. And now we have, Sleepy Joe. Let's be realistic. In the last 2 years, this country's fallen apart more than anything that happened in 2020. More than anything that happened in 2020. Because of we are not focused on what needs to be done here. We're focused on everything but that. And that was kind of like what my ex and I were discussing. And she goes to me, well, let's agree to disagree. And I go to her and go, well, there's no agreeing to disagreeing. You're wrong and I'm right. And I'm not even that kind of a person, but I was just like, this is how I feel. And I think my life experiences outweigh yours. And that's how it is. When I was young, you should see the shirts I have. No justice, no peace. I had the highest grade in African American Studies class, 110%. The teacher was so upset that the top three grades in the class were Russian Jew at 110%, and over 100% was this old white couple. It was pretty amazing. But I grew up wanting to learn about other cultures, about other people's histories, because in our schools we don't get that opportunity to learn about true history. We had to learn about skewed history. So I took those classes because I wanted to learn. And that's what you should do. You should learn from life experiences, get yourself educated, and then you can move forward with that. So now I could go into my Jewish mic drop stories, right? I'm going to just give you a couple of examples of being a Jewish person and dealing with it either in Ukraine or with Ukrainians at the time. And I have Ukrainian friends. I'm not saying that. But again, the same way you're going to people that are minorities judge a whole group of people, don't get mad if I share my feelings from personal experiences to even from a few years ago, okay? So, for example, I'll give you a quick example. This country was built on slavery, horrendous. But let's be realistic. Not every white person is responsible for that. Russians had nothing to do with that. Ukrainians had nothing to do with that. Swedish, Norwegians, Germans, nothing to do with American slavery. Why are they being punished for it for being, quote unquote, Caucasian? It's not their fucking Americans. Every American that's born here right now, they weren't a part of it. It's the country needs to learn from it and help the communities that it built and destroyed. It's not Caucasians that not even from this land's fault or even from this land, but it's thrown in their face, right? So when I'm telling you my stories from my past, from my history, from my personal experiences, this is where my opinions come from. And not even opinions, they're truths, they're facts. Complete facts. When fucking Putin throws around the neo-Nazi shit in Ukraine, he's right. That's not why he's there. Fuck that. He is 100% wrong for doing what he's doing. He's destroying a beautiful country of Ukraine. He's killing a lot of innocent people. He's destroying the beautiful country of Russia and the people. He is a dictator, and he's on a warpath. He's been emboldened with all this power for years, and he tried to resolve the situation with Zelensky, and Zelensky said fuck you, and he said fuck you back. That's basically what happened. But there is a problem of Nazis in Ukraine. There was proof of pictures and videos before this started that was circulating. But people don't know, because when people ask me what you think about it, because, you're Russian and stuff, I explain to them. And I tell my stories, and they're like, oh, fuck, I didn't know. I'm like, why would you? Put on MSNBC. Put on CNN. Go ahead. Put on Fox News. You think any of them talking about that? Fuck no, they're not. Because now Putin, rightfully so, is the evil one, and anything that's happening in the other country, the country was heaven. Yeah, it was heaven. You know what it was heaven for? Go talk to some people who or go read up on why Ukraine is the top money laundering place for the West. Why? And I don't care, do your thing. Maybe that's why Putin's like, fuck that shit. They're way too close to the West. I need to fucking destroy them. Or change the way things are. Think Putin's pro the West? Fuck no. That dude is crazy. That dude is anti-gay. That dude is even weed, as we could tell now. And he's also, if you're married to somebody, what was that? I think it was like, if you're married to a woman, you're allowed to beat her. It's like, there's some domestic violence laws that are skewed as well. It's a beautiful place to visit, and with bodyguards living there, I can't imagine. This is why we escaped Ukraine/Russia. So I'm going to tell you a couple of my stories, and I'm going to go because I got to work. I have all this energy that I'm throwing out, that I need to now focus on cleaning the house and editing. Anyways, here's the big story. And I've shared it before on a few podcasts, but people who are new to this, I need to hear this story. So, my parents would tell me about this family friend for years as a little child, growing up. And then years ago, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, this man came to visit us. He lives in Australia. Ironically, he looks just like Saddam Hussein. I wish I would have taken a selfie with him. So we'd be like, hey, Saddam Hussein came over for Thanksgiving dinner. But he was detained because of his look at the airport. Talk about, profiling. Anyways, here's the story. And he told us the story from his personal mouth experience, from his heart, at Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm telling you, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. I've known the story, but just hearing it from the person who went through it is brutal. It's a brutal story. It's a brutal situation. What him and his family went through is surreal and horrific. So, as he was 8 years old, his sister was 11. They were at home. The war just started. He's living in Ukraine. And there was a knock on the door. His mom went to open the door. Their dad was already in the military. He was deployed or whatever. And there was a knock on the door. His mom opens the door, and the next door neighbor has a rock and hits their mom in the head with a rock, knocking her down. His sister runs over to help her mom. He knocks her sister down. His mom, yells for him to run out of the house and run to the train station. So he gets past this horrific, murderous piece of shit and runs to the train station. This man wound up killing his mom and his sister with his bare hands and these rocks. This man was notorious Ukrainian Jew hater who was their neighbor. And when the war broke out, it gave him that free reign to do whatever he wants, because what happened to Jewish people in Ukraine during World War II was horrific. He killed 60 Jewish people, neighbors, people in the area, and buried them alive. If they were still alive, he just put dirt over them and moved on. And I guess you could hear people screaming for weeks from under the ground. the ground was rumbling from it. So this man felt empowered, hidden. His feelings were hidden until he was given that power of do whatever you want once the war broke out. And this man is telling us these stories, and it's I'm getting goosebumps just remembering it, because the emotion in his voice and in his eyes, mind you, 50 years later or so, more than 50 years, 60 years later, it will never leave my mind. So when I hear anti-Semitism or people defending certain countries or acts, and I'm just like, you fucking don't know. You fucking don't know. It's like telling black people they're from the 50s and 60s. They know. They've went through that shit. And they still do go through this shit. But they've experienced that disgusting situations in our country. That's why it's great to sit down with older people, especially with black older people, and let them share stories with you. Because that's coming from first life experiences. When stories are shared, and eventually becomes like telephone, stories change, facts get skewed. But if you hear it straight from the horse's mouth, you're getting the actual facts. This is why I like to share my stories, because I've experienced them. Because once I die, whoever heard my stories can share them, and it might get skewed a little bit because it's not firsthand experience. With me, it was first-hand experience, hearing that from a man who had first-hand experience. When I was in school, which is now Ukraine, I used to get beat up by Ukrainian kids for being Jewish. I used to be called the word Žid, which is equivalent of the K word for Jews, for the N word for black people. I didn't know what it was. I would go home and ask my parents, what does that mean? And they would get upset. They're like, don't worry about it. But that was not necessarily on a daily, but it happened a lot. Think about it. 8-year-old kid in school, 7-year-old kid in school. And in Russia, it was there was only 10 grades, and they were all in the same building, same school. So you're getting older kids. I remember being thrown on the table and being called Žid by a kid that was in 9th, 10th grade. I don't know. He was a big kid. I didn't know why. I had no idea. Like I said, I don't even look Jewish. But by my name, they assumed I was Jewish, or they knew. It doesn't matter. But that's what I went through. And now going with my dad to the KGB office to see if we were let out of the country was brutal. Because watching, my dad's a strong Russian dude who's got a Russian attitude and fuck you attitude and don't fucking talk to me like that attitude. And to have him bite his tongue while he got embarrassed and berated by KGB agents, called every name in the book, sellout, obviously the Žid word, all kinds of stuff. And then watching my parents, when we finally, I remember the day, it's so funny, because I actually remember my reaction to us finally getting the right to leave the country. My dad comes home, I was at home, and I was upset because in first grade, we were learning English. In second grade, we started learning Ukrainian. And I hated Ukrainian because it was like Russian, but it was broken Russian. It was like we call the Ebonics of Russian, It's like, it's not Russian. It's got similar words, but it's different. So it's like, why the fuck are we learning that, when we already know Russian? So it was hard for me. It was I didn't like it. And my dad came home and he goes, we can go to America. And I shit you not. You can ask my parents if you ever meet them. My first reaction was like, oh my God. I was like so happy I didn't have to go back to school, get beat up, and learn Ukrainian. Literally, those are the reasons why I was so happy. Plus going to United States, to America was fabulous, because I used to draw little planes with it said Sesha on it, which is USA in Russian. And then watching my parents for over 3 months travel across the world, holding the family together, watching us get robbed by KGB agents on the border, sleeping at the train station in Czechoslovakia, sleeping at the train station in Poland. You just have your bags and you sleep on your bags so nobody steals your bags. Living in Austria for a month and a half, not knowing the language. So you're trying to survive for a month and a half in Austria, not knowing the language. The first time we went to a supermarket, we just stood there in the door. You know, like those movies you see where people walk into a castle or walk into something. There's like, whoa, that was our moment for a store that Russia/Ukraine didn't have. And it's like, oh my God, I remember the first gifts my parents bought me, toys. They were little cowboys and Indians. Little cowboys and Indians, plastic ones, those melted plastic into like a die cut, like super cheesy. But again, in 1978, they're wonderful, wonderful toys, and I still have them somewhere here. I have them, and then I lived in Italy for almost 3 months. Again, not knowing the language, so watching my parents travel across the country to take us to a better situation. I appreciate that and respect that more than anything or anyone in the world, because I saw that. And I know the story that every immigrant has that's pretty similar to ours. Maybe not as drastic when it comes to, dealing with KGB agents, stealing and things like that, getting beat up. But they're similar, so when you see people, down to talk about, illegal aliens. Yeah, they're undocumented 100%. But why are they coming here? Because of the opportunity. Because that's the part that people just kind of put aside. The opportunity that this country gives you, no matter what job you have, whether you're a busboy or you work in someone's fucking garden, whatever it may be, it's an opportunity those people don't get where they're from. And that is the part when Americans shit on this country, they fucking can't get through their thick skull. You could literally be unemployed in this country and still live fine. You can live on welfare. You can live on food stamps. Somebody will help you out. Or they used to, at least, because now people become just homeless. And the government's like, fuck you, let me help somebody else out. So it's crazy to me that this country is where it's at right now. And you could see it shifting. You see it shifting all the time. I work in the most liberal industry probably in the world, in the sex industry. And believe me or not, majority of the people I talk to that actually are educated or have experienced life, they are on the border of not necessarily switching political parties, but definitely moving away from what's happening on the left right now. They are. They're afraid to say, again, it comes down to that whole freedom of speech thing, right? So God forbid you speak your mind because you're labeled everything in the book. So they just sit quietly and don't say a word. Kind of like all those Trump voters sat quietly, didn't say a word because we'll just make our voice heard in the polls, in the voting booth. This is literally what's happening now, is that people are afraid to speak up because they're going to be labeled all kinds of names and completely in the wrong way. I just saw Kid Rock on Bill Maher. Bill Maher, one of the most left people in the world, is like, the left's going way too far. Bill Maher. So that tells you something. I have a friend, one of the most, she would fight her parents who were Republicans. She's like, I'm never voting Democrat again. Straight up, industry person. You guys don't know her. I've never talked about her on this podcast, but she said, I will never vote Democrat. I will not vote Republican, but I'm not voting Democrat. Meaning Democrats lost that vote. And how many people are out there that are making that decision? Right or wrong, but I think there's a shift coming. And people see it. Because what's happening now is out of control in this country. And yet, this country can't hold it together. We're worried about the dumbest things, like this whole Twitter thing. Worried about the dumbest things. Everybody's like, oh my God, Elon Musk on Twitter. Who cares? Don't go on Twitter. It's an app on your phone. You literally delete it, and your life doesn't change for us. If you don't have a life, it sure does. But find something to do with that time you're sitting on your phone reading other people's fake lives. Let's be realistic. Social media is all fake. And this is what Elon Musk proved by buying Twitter, that 40% of Twitter are bots. What do you think Instagram is? I had a big name performer post my name on her Instagram. Okay. I got like 300 new followers. And I shit you not, majority of them didn't have a picture. And probably the other 20, 30% at least were people from India. And at what point any of those people or bots make you money? They don't. Change your life. They don't. And how many of that social media for people is fake? I know girls who've had their accounts deleted. The next 2 days they're back with 100,000 followers. How is that possible? When their engagement's only like 20, 30, 100 likes per picture. So what's happening is that people are so in tune to this social media bullshit. This is why I wear shirts that say fake lives matter. Because fake lives matter to people who are fake or want that fake life for themselves. I also wear shirts that say internet killed your soul. Because it does. Because you're sitting there like a zombie looking at the internet. Well, actually, it says social media killed your soul. Social media. You sit in social media. You know, and at what point do you put the phone down? How many people do you know in your life that when you're having dinner, they're on their phone? Put your fucking phone down. Have some respect to talk to somebody. That phone, put the phone, leave it on. So if there's an emergency, somebody calls you, you're like, oh shit, gotta go, somebody's dying. Other than that, nothing's important. You want to take a couple of pictures of social media? Take them, put it down, post it afterwards. Or post it and put it down. There's no reason to be on your phone when you're having dinner with somebody. This is the problem we have in this country. And probably in the world. Mostly this country, I imagine. Because this country is like, literally is run by social media. By the tiny minority of social media, that's how it's run. And this is why the outrage of like Elon Musk and Twitter. Who cares? More power to Kyrie Irving and Kanye West for speaking their mind. I want to know what they feel and what they think. And I want to know the people that agree with them. Because I'll just avoid them. Or I'll troll them and throw it in their face. Because people like that, the most fun thing is to troll people like that. Racists and woke are fun to troll. Because they're so passionate about bullshit. Oh my God, I'm in my house and I'm on social media and I'm outraged. Outraged. Crazy, right? Crazy. Because people in this country don't have lives. Look, insurrection, horrendous. Because people are so stuck on, oh my God, Trump's is God. What he says is the truth. What he says is, the Bible. Bullshit. Because those people don't have lives. They can't think for themselves. They can't step outside the box and be like, well, let me look at it with an open mind. But people don't have an open mind when they're stuck on social media. They're stuck on their timeline. And on their timeline is who they choose to follow. So that's who they choose to believe. That's the reality of it. So that's how it is. You literally are choosing who is going to be your father, your Lord, and your preacher by who you choose to follow on social media. Because you believe them. You believe the bullshit that they feed you. They're literally scooping up dog shit and putting it in your mouth, and you're taking it as fucking word is bond. So fine, live your life like that. You know what's going to happen with people who live their life like that? They're going to live their life like that the rest of their lives. They're not going to have an impact on the world. They're not going to have an impact on their life. They're going to have an impact on people in their lives because they're stuck in that bullshit of social media. This is why I need to make more social media kills your soul shirts because people love them. People say, like, oh, fuck yeah, it's so true. Everyone that sees my shirt, they're like, that's true. I don't get anybody that says, I'm offended by it. Because, people that are offended by it, God forbid they speak up because it's not behind a keyboard. So they can't speak up. So they're like, I'm just going to walk away upset and angry. Rah, rah. People who believe it, they're like, fuck yeah, that's a great shirt. Because it's the truth. So that's the reality of it. So trolling is fun. If you troll someone and leave, my brother was the champ at trolling. He did this one thing one time. This will be the last story because I've been ranting on. It's getting late. I need to get back. Well, it's not getting late. It's getting later on in the morning, I should say. So my brother, this is the last story. I'm going to save more stories for another time. My brother, he when the adult DVD talk, which is a message board for porn, was huge. This is before social media. Years ago, about 15, no, more than 15, 17 years ago, maybe 17, 16 years ago. There was a post by Evil Angel. They just hired big male talent, Mike Adriano, to be a director. So my brother, I didn't even know this. My brother it's a post about Mike Adriano getting hired by Evil Angel. My brother goes into that thread, and he was directing for Diabolic at the time. He was at one point, XBiz had him as a top 10 director in the industry at 19 years old. Insane, right? My brother, incredibly talented human being. More talented than I am. Incredibly talented man. So he goes in this message board, into that thread, and posts something. And then he instantly texts me and he goes, "Did you see what I posted?" LOL. I go, "What'd you do?" He goes, "I threw a grenade in the room and I jumped out of the room." I'm like, "What?" "Yes." And he's having a good time at it. I go and look at the thread, right? And there's this thread that says, it says like a press release about Evil Angel hiring Mike Adriano to be a director. My brother posts, "Why didn't you stop hiring male talent you're fucking and hire talented directors like Ivan?" Boom, leaves the room. And I'm reading this and my heart's like, oh, he literally dropped a grenade, smiled, winked, and left the room. That's what he did. And of course, there was a comeback post by somebody from Evil basically saying to the effect of, "We love his work, but we weren't interested in hiring him." Like they made it seem that I came in looking for a job. Never did. I was with Anabolic. Never looked for a job in the industry. People came to me. Never looked for a job. So I was offended by that because I'm like, you're making it look like I went to try to get a job with you and you declined me. One, I have a job that I'm really fucking happy with. Two, this never happened. We've never even met. So I had to go in there and drop my own fucking little grenade. I was like, fuck that. I've never met you, never talked to you, never dropped off a movie with you, never asked for a job, and I don't appreciate you saying things like that about me. I'm not a producer. I'm a director. You hire only producers. I direct, I hold the camera, I edit, I do my own shit. Producers don't. Producers fucking sit back, throw money at something, and then collect the money. That's not me. So I've never spoken to you. Because, I don't want people from Anabolic seeing that and be like, "Were you trying to get a job with Evil?" No, I was not. And we cleared it up. I wound up meeting with Trisha Devereaux at LA Erotica, I think it was. Talked it out. She's a wonderful person. I think she felt offended, so she responded, and I felt offended, and I responded. But what happened was my brother dropped a fucking grenade in there, and just ran out and haha, let's see what happens now. Let's see what the residual from the explosion happens. So, so that's kind of what it is. But that's what social media is. That's when you go and you troll people. I'll troll people on Facebook. I'll just post something and I'll leave and never come back. And I'll see people commenting and I'm like, I don't really give a shit because you're stupid because you're falling for me trolling you. What the fuck? It's not important what I have to say. It really is not. But this podcast is not important in the bigger scheme of things. If you're listening to it, you're like, fuck him. He's a fucking idiot. Fucking Jew. I don't care. Say it. I don't care. I am a fucking Jew. You know something? I'm a fucking Jew. I'm a Russian Jew who was born in Ukraine area. That's Ukraine now. I got beat up by Ukrainians for being Jewish. My dad was almost killed by a Ukrainian soldier when he was serving in the military until he told a soldier, "When you go to sleep, I'm going to fucking slit your fucking throat." Then what are you going to do? Getting killed by a Jew. Left at that. That's it. These are my personal experiences. And that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you facts, not stories, not fucking theories, not anything but what happened to me, my family, and family friends. Take it for what it is. And for all of you motherfuckers who like to throw around, these like anti-Semite bullshit, keep doing it. As long as I know who you are, I'm totally cool with it. I don't really care. Doesn't affect. Like when I see this guy, I laugh at him. Okay, cool, whatever. Let him say whatever he wants. It doesn't matter to me. Same with Kyrie Irving. Who cares? That the documentary he's promoting is idiotic. People are like, well, don't you think Amazon should get rid of it? Why? Isn't this country still built on freedom of speech? It's not freedom of speech because if I agree with you, it's freedom of speech, period. So now I want to know, let that fucking guy who has his documentary out, I want to know his name so I know I'll never go see his movie again. I'm going to let my wallet speak for my mind. That's it. That's where it's going to be. Let him put out whatever he wants. Who cares? It's freedom of expression, isn't it? Freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of who you want to have sex with, freedom of who you don't want to have sex with. My industry kind of forgets that sometimes, but but that's it. So speak your mind, but remember there's consequences to those things. That's it. And I don't care if you're anti-Semitic. I really don't. Unless you're hurting me physically, financially, hurting my family, physically, financially, the loved ones and people I know, then we have a problem. Other than that, you're allowed to speak your mind. I mean, what am I going to do? Because people who are like that, they were raised like that. When you're a baby, you don't know color, you don't know religion, you don't know any of that shit. You're just a baby. You're a child. That's all you are. I'll tell you one quick other story, which made me really proud of how my brother and his wife raised their kids. So my niece had teeth missing in the front, right? So we're at dinner, family dinner, and I look at her and I go, hey, you look like Leon Spinks. And she goes, who? Leon Spinks. She goes, I don't know who that is. She's a child, right? She's 7, 8 years old. I pull up a picture of him and I show it to her. And it's Leon Spinks. If you don't know, he's a black boxer with teeth missing in the front. And she goes, no, she looks at me. She goes, no, I don't. And I'm like, oh. And I'm waiting for that, obviously. She's a little white girl. He's a big black man. I'm waiting for that line, right? Because now, and my brother's looking at me like, you dick, right? What are you trying to pull here? And I go, why not? And she goes, because I'm a girl and he's a boy. Perfect answer. That's what children are. Until they're fed bullshit from both parties, social media, TV shows, news, because they all have an agenda. They're using all of us as puppets. That's the reality. But children are honest and they're not blind by hate. They're just children whose mind gets molded by all these outside situations that lead to where, sadly, we're at these days. And at some point, I think it's starting to tilt over to the other side, which is scary on its own. Because for what we think is happening now with the politics and Uber left, Uber right as as scary, if not worse. And the problem is there's the shift. Because people who are in the middle are like, I can't go this direction anymore. I might have to go this direction. The problem is then you're empowering the other side. We need reality-based minds and thinking. And sadly, we hardly get that these days. So, at the end of the day, this was my Jewish pipe bomb. I know it was long-winded, went every direction because this fucking 5-hour kicked in, and I just got to talking and watching my cat chase her own tail and freak out on her own tail. By the way, my cat's not Jewish, and we get along completely fine. Zeno, do you like Jews? She likes me, and I'm a Jew, so we're good. We're great. I don't think she knows any better. As long as I feed her and clean her litter box, she will love anybody. Actually, no, she's an evil cat. She doesn't love anybody. She tries to bite everybody. But that's it. So take my personal experiences and they obviously mold the way I think into consideration. And if somebody's anti-Semitic, they're anti-Semitic. What are you going to do? You could try to give them facts, but if their mind's made up, their mind's made up. And you shouldn't have to force them to pay fines and apologize if that's not what they believe. And it's sad that that's what's happening right now with Kyrie Irving and Kanye West. But I guess these days that's all you have in teaching people a lesson. Well, Kanye lost a ton of money. Kyrie lost a ton of money. They both lost a ton of respect by a lot of people. So it is what it is. Anyways, I'm done. I'm going to go work. I'm going to go clean up. I'm going to go have breakfast. And cum si, cum sa, my peoples. Cum si, cum sa. Or as my Jewish brothers would say, shalom. Shalom, my friends. Shalom.